Hey Reddit, I never thought I'd be writing here, but I'm at a point where I need advice and maybe just a place to vent. My name is Mark, 36M, and I've been married to my wife, Samantha, 34F, for 7 years. We have 2 kids, Ava, 6F, and Ben, 3M. I thought we had a good life together, comfortable, happy, and built on trust. But over the past few months, I've started to notice some things that don't sit right with me. Samantha and I met in college, and I fell for her almost instantly. She's smart, beautiful, and has this incredible way of lighting up a room. I've always trusted her completely, until recently. For the past 6 months or so, things have felt off. At first, I thought it was just the stress of juggling work and parenting, but the more I paid attention, the more red flags I started to notice. It started with her phone. Samantha has always been pretty open with her devices. We'd share memes, photos, and even passwords without a second thought. But lately, she's been unusually protective of her phone. She keeps it face down whenever she's around me, and she gets defensive if I even glance in its direction. When I asked her about it, she said she was just trying to unplug and not be glued to her screen all the time. It sounded reasonable, but something about her tone felt rehearsed. Then there were her late nights. Samantha started going out more often, saying she was meeting up with friends or attending work events. She'd come home hours later than expected, looking flustered and distracted. When I'd ask how her night was, she'd give me vague answers like, "Oh, it was fine," or "Nothing exciting, just the usual." Once or twice, I noticed the faint smell of cologne on her clothes, definitely not mine. The final straw was her behavior around me. She used to be affectionate, always reaching for my hand or kissing me when I came home. But lately, she's been distant, avoiding eye contact, brushing off my attempts to connect, and even flinching when I tried to hug her. I can't describe how much it hurt to feel that distance, especially when I had no idea what I'd done wrong. A week ago, I found myself lying awake in bed while Samantha was out at another work dinner. My mind was racing with possibilities, each one worse than the last. Was she cheating? Was I imagining things? I hated the thought of being that guy, the paranoid, jealous husband who couldn't trust his wife. But at the same time, I couldn't ignore the feeling in my gut that something was seriously wrong. That night, I made a decision that I'm not proud of. I ordered a small, discreet camera online and had it shipped to my office. I knew it was an invasion of privacy, and part of me felt sick at the thought of spying on my own wife. But I needed answers, and I didn't know any other way to get them. When the camera arrived, I set it up in our bedroom while Samantha was out running errands. I positioned it carefully so it would capture the entire room but remain hidden among some books on a high shelf. My hands were shaking the entire time. I felt like I was crossing a line I couldn't uncross. But my need for the truth outweighed my guilt. The next few days were torture. I didn't check the footage right away. I wanted to wait and see if anything happened while I wasn't home. Every time Samantha went out, I felt a mix of anxiety and dread, wondering if tonight would be the night I'd catch her doing something she couldn't explain. On Friday, she told me she was going to a networking event after work and might be home late. My heart sank, but I forced myself to act normal. "Have fun," I said, kissing her goodbye. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. That night, after putting the kids to bed, I sat down at my computer and opened the camera app for the first time. My palms were sweaty as I scrolled through the footage. Most of it was uneventful, just Samantha getting ready for work or lying in bed scrolling through her phone. But then I saw something that made my stomach drop. It was from 2 nights earlier. Around 9 p.m., after I'd gone to bed early with a headache, the bedroom door opened. Samantha walked in, followed by a man I didn't recognize. When I saw the footage of Samantha walking into our bedroom with another man, I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. My heart was pounding, my hands were shaking, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. It was like my worst fears had been confirmed in the most devastating way possible. The man who followed Samantha into the room was tall, probably in his early 40s, with dark hair and a confident, casual demeanor. I didn't recognize him, but the way he carried himself made it clear he wasn't just some random stranger. Samantha seemed comfortable around him, too comfortable. In the footage, they stood in the middle of the room, talking quietly. I couldn't hear what they were saying because the camera didn't record audio, but their body language said it all. He reached out and touched her arm, and she didn't pull away. Instead, she smiled an intimate, familiar smile that made my stomach churn. Then it happened. He leaned in and kissed her, and she kissed him back. I paused the video, unable to watch anymore. My mind was racing with questions. Who was this guy? How long had this been going on? And how could she do this to us? I felt like I was going to be sick. After pacing around the house for what felt like hours, I forced myself to sit back down and watch the rest of the footage. I needed to know exactly what had happened, no matter how much it hurt. The kiss turned into something more. Samantha led him to the bed, and they sat down, still talking and laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. My blood boiled as I watched them get closer, their movements growing more intimate. It didn't take long before they were lying down together. I stopped the video again, unable to watch any further. It was too much. I felt like my heart had been ripped out of my chest. This wasn't just a one-time mistake or a moment of weakness. The way she acted around him, the comfort, the familiarity, made it clear this wasn't the first time. For the rest of the night, I couldn't sleep. I just sat in the living room, replaying the footage in my mind and trying to figure out what to do next. Part of me wanted to confront her right away, to demand answers and let her know that I knew everything. But another part of me wanted to wait, to gather more information before making a move. Eventually, I decided to play it cool for now. I wanted to see if she'd admit to anything on her own or if she'd continue to lie. The next morning, I acted like everything was normal, even though it was killing me inside. I made breakfast for the kids, chatted with Samantha about her plans for the day, and pretended I wasn't falling apart. That afternoon, I called my best friend, David, and told him everything. David's been my closest friend since college, and I knew he'd give me honest advice. When I finished explaining, there was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Mark," he said finally, "I'm so sorry, man. I can't imagine how much this hurts. But you need to confront her. You deserve answers, and she needs to know that she can't get away with this." "I know," I said, running a hand through my hair. "I'm just not ready yet. I need to figure out the best way to handle this." "Take your time," David said. "But don't let her keep making a fool out of you. You deserve better." Over the next few days, I kept watching Samantha closely, looking for any signs of guilt or remorse. But if she was feeling guilty, she didn't show it. She went about her routine as if nothing had happened, smiling, laughing, and even cuddling up to me on the couch like we were the perfect couple. It made my skin crawl, but I kept playing along, waiting for the right moment to confront her. I knew it was only a matter of time before everything came to a head, and when it did, there would be no going back. After days of holding it in, I finally reached my breaking point. Watching Samantha act like everything was fine while knowing what she'd done was eating me alive. I couldn't keep pretending anymore. I needed answers, and I needed them now. Before confronting her, I made sure I had everything I needed. I reviewed the footage from the camera multiple times, taking screenshots of the moments that confirmed my suspicions. I didn't want there to be any room for denial or manipulation. Part of me hoped she'd admit the truth on her own, but another part of me knew better. If she'd been able to lie to my face for this long, why would she suddenly come clean now? That night, I waited until the kids were asleep. The house was quiet, and Samantha was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. My heart was pounding as I walked into the room, my phone in my hand with the screenshots ready to go. "Samantha," I said, my voice steady but cold. "We need to talk." She looked up at me, her expression a mix of confusion and concern. "What's wrong?" she asked. I sat down across from her, keeping my eyes locked on hers. "I know what you've been doing," I said. "I know about him." Her face went pale, and she froze. "What are you talking about?" she said, her voice shaky. "Don't play dumb," I snapped, pulling up the screenshots on my phone. "I put a camera in our bedroom, Samantha. I saw everything." Her eyes widened in shock, and for a moment, she didn't say anything. Then she covered her face with her hands and started to cry. "Mark, I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I didn't mean for it to happen." "Don't give me that," I said, my voice rising. "You didn't mean for it to happen? You brought him into our home, into our bedroom, and you expect me to believe it was some accident? How long has this been going on?" She wiped her tears, her hands trembling. "It's not what you think," she said. "It was just one time. I swear. One time." I repeated, my voice dripping with disbelief. "You expect me to believe that? You looked way too comfortable with him for it to be just one time." She didn't respond, which told me everything I needed to know. "Who is he?" I demanded. "How did you even meet him?" She hesitated before answering. "His name is Matt," she said quietly. "He's someone I met at work. We started talking, and it just got out of hand." "Out of hand?" I repeated, my anger boiling over. "You mean you decided to betray your husband and your family because things got a little too friendly at work? Do you even hear yourself right now?" "I know I messed up," she said, her voice breaking. "I wasn't thinking straight, and I let things go too far. But I love you, Mark. I love our family. It didn't mean anything, I swear. Her words felt like a slap in the face. It didn't mean anything? I said bitterly. So you're saying you risked our marriage, our family, and everything we've built for something that didn't even matter to you? Do you have any idea how pathetic that sounds? She started crying again, reaching for my hand, but I pulled away. Mark, please, she said. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. I'll go to therapy. I'll quit my job. Anything. Just please don't give up on us. I stood up, unable to sit there any longer. You don't get to ask me for anything, I said, my voice cold. You made your choice, Samantha. Now I have to figure out if I can live with it. I walked out of the room, leaving her sobbing on the couch. My mind was racing as I paced around the house, trying to process everything. Part of me wanted to pack my bags and leave right then and there, but another part of me felt paralyzed. I didn't want to make any rash decisions, especially with the kids involved. They didn't deserve to have their lives turned upside down because of this. That night, I slept in the guest room. I couldn't bear to be in the same bed where she'd betrayed me. As I lay there staring at the ceiling, I kept asking myself the same questions. How did we get here? Could I ever forgive her? And even if I could, would things ever be the same again? I didn't have the answers yet. All I knew was that my life had been turned upside down, and the person I thought I could trust most in the world had become a stranger. After confronting Samantha and hearing her tearful apologies, I thought I'd feel some sense of relief, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Instead, I just felt empty. Her excuses, her promises to change, her claims that she still loved me, none of it erased the fact that she had betrayed me in the worst way possible. Now I'm stuck trying to figure out what to do next. The hardest part of all this is thinking about Ava and Ben. They're so young, so innocent, and they have no idea what's going on. Ava's been asking why I've been sleeping in the guest room, and I had to make up a lame excuse about needing to work late and not wanting to wake her mom. I hate lying to her, but what else can I say? Mommy and Daddy are having problems because she cheated on me? She's only 6. She doesn't need that kind of burden. Every time I look at my kids, I feel this overwhelming guilt. They deserve a happy, stable home, and I'm terrified of what a divorce would do to them. But then I think about staying in a marriage where I can't trust my wife, and I wonder if that would be even worse. How do I set a good example for them when I feel like my whole world is falling apart? After a few days of silence between me and Samantha, I called my brother David again. He's always been the one I turn to when I need advice, and he didn't hold back. Mark, you need to take a step back and think about what you want, he said. Can you see yourself forgiving her? Do you even want to try? Because if you don't, dragging this out isn't going to do anyone any favors. I don't know, I admit it. Part of me wants to walk away and never look back. But then I think about the kids, and I start second-guessing everything. What if I'm making a mistake? There's no easy answer, David said. But whatever you decide, make sure it's what you truly want, not what you think you're supposed to do. The kids will be okay as long as they know you love them. Samantha has been trying hard to prove that she's sorry. She's been texting me throughout the day, checking in and asking how I'm doing. She even scheduled a session with a therapist who specializes in infidelity and asked if I'd be willing to go with her. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, she said during one of our late-night talks. But I want to fight for our marriage. I want to fight for us. Her words sounded sincere, but I couldn't help but wonder if it was too little, too late. She should have thought about fighting for our marriage before she brought another man into our home. After a lot of back and forth, I finally agreed to go to therapy with Samantha. Part of me felt like I owed it to the kids to at least try, and another part of me was curious to see if there was anything worth salvaging. If nothing else, I figured it might help me get some clarity on what to do next. The first session was tense. Dr. Harper, our therapist, started by asking each of us to share why we were there and what we wanted to get out of therapy. Samantha went first, her voice trembling as she spoke. I'm here because I made a terrible mistake, she said. I hurt the man I love, and I put our family at risk. I know I can't undo what I've done, but I want to do whatever it takes to earn back Mark's trust. When it was my turn, I didn't sugarcoat anything. I'm here because I don't know if I can move past this, I said. Samantha betrayed me in a way I never thought possible, and I'm not sure if I even want to try to fix things. Dr. Harper nodded, her expression neutral. Thank you for being honest, Mark, she said. It's okay to feel conflicted. Healing from infidelity is a long and complicated process, and it's important to take things one step at a time. During the session, Dr. Harper asked us to dig deeper into what led to the breakdown in our relationship. Samantha admitted that she'd been feeling neglected, like I was more focused on work and the kids than on her. It doesn't excuse what I did, she said quickly. But I think I started seeking attention from someone else because I felt invisible at home. Hearing her say that stung, but it also made me think. Had I been neglecting her without realizing it? Had I been so caught up in providing for our family that I forgot to show her how much she meant to me? It was a hard pill to swallow, but I couldn't ignore the possibility that I had played a part in the distance between us. That night, after the kids were asleep, Samantha and I sat down for a long talk. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said honestly, but I'm willing to try for the kids, if nothing else. Thank you, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I know it's going to take time, but I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. After deciding to give therapy a try, I thought I'd feel some sense of hope or clarity. Instead, it's been a roller coaster of emotions, progress on some days, setbacks on others. Rebuilding trust after a betrayal like this isn't just hard, it's exhausting. And I'm starting to realize that even with therapy, there's no guarantee we'll come out of this intact. Our second therapy session with Dr. Harper was harder than the first. She asked us to dig deeper into our feelings, particularly about the affair itself. Mark, how has this betrayal affected the way you view Samantha and your marriage? She asked. I didn't hold back. It shattered everything, I said. I don't see her the same way anymore. She was the person I trusted most in the world, and now I feel like I don't even know her. Every time I look at her, I see the lies, the betrayal, and the man she brought into our home. Samantha started crying, but I didn't stop. I don't know if I can ever look at her without thinking about what she did. And I don't know if I even want to try. Dr. Harper nodded, letting my words hang in the air for a moment before turning to Samantha. How does it feel to hear Mark say that? I deserve it, she said through her tears. He's right. I broke his trust, and I don't expect him to forgive me overnight. But I'm here because I want to show him that I can change. I don't want this to be the end of us. One of the exercises Dr. Harper gave us was to write letters to each other about what we needed to feel safe and valued in the relationship moving forward. Writing mine was harder than I expected. I kept getting stuck on the idea that I shouldn't have to explain what I needed from my wife. It should have been obvious. But eventually, I realized that if I wanted any chance of moving forward, I needed to communicate, no matter how painful it was. In my letter, I told Samantha that I needed complete transparency from her. No more secrets, no more lies. I also told her that I needed her to take responsibility for the pain she caused, without trying to shift the blame onto me or our circumstances. If we're going to rebuild this marriage, I wrote, it has to be built on honesty and accountability. Without that, there's no point in trying. When I read Samantha's letter, it was clear that she was trying. She wrote about her regret and shame, how much she hated herself for what she'd done, and how she wanted to earn back my trust, even if it took years. I know I can't erase the past, she wrote, but I want to prove to you that I'm still the woman you fell in love with. Her words were sincere, but I couldn't help feeling like they weren't enough. Actions speak louder than words, and while I appreciated her effort, I needed to see real, tangible change before I could even consider forgiving her. Rebuilding trust has been the hardest part of this process. Samantha has gone out of her way to show me she's committed, giving me access to her phone, sharing her location, and being completely open about her schedule. But even with all that, the doubts still creep in. Every time she picks up her phone or steps out of the house, I can't help but wonder, is she really being honest? Or is she just getting better at hiding things? Dr. Harper warned me that this paranoia is normal in the aftermath of infidelity, but that doesn't make it any easier to live with. Some days, it feels like I'm driving myself crazy, overanalyzing every little thing. And on those days, I wonder if this is even worth it. Is it possible to rebuild a marriage when trust feels so completely shattered? A few weeks ago, something happened that gave me a small glimmer of hope. Samantha and I were sitting in the backyard, watching the kids play, when she turned to me and said, Mark, I know I don't deserve your trust yet, but I want you to know that I'm not just doing this for you. I'm doing it for me too. I need to be better, not just as a wife, but as a person. Her words caught me off guard. For the first time, it felt like she wasn't just trying to fix things to save our marriage. She was genuinely trying to grow as a person. It didn't erase the pain, but it made me think that maybe, just maybe, there was a path forward for us. I wish I could tell you that everything is better now, but the truth is, we're still in the thick of it. Some days, I feel like we're making progress. Other days, I feel like we're stuck in the same cycle of pain and mistrust. But for now, I'm choosing to stay and see where this journey takes us. After weeks of therapy and constant soul-searching, I'm starting to confront the idea of forgiveness. I wish I could say it's getting easier, But honestly, it feels like one of the hardest things I've ever had to face. Forgiving Samantha doesn't just mean letting go of my anger. It means accepting that our relationship will never be the same and deciding whether I can live with that. In therapy, Dr. Harper keeps emphasizing that forgiveness isn't about excusing what happened or pretending it didn't hurt. Forgiveness is about choosing to move forward, she said in one session. It's a gift you give yourself, not just the other person. It's a way to free yourself from the pain and resentment, whether you decide to stay together or not. Her words hit me hard. I've been holding on to so much anger and bitterness since the affair, and it's been eating away at me. But the thought of forgiving Samantha feels impossible. How do I forgive someone who betrayed me so completely? How do I move past the image of her with another man in our bedroom, the lies, the deceit? Dr. Harper said something else that stuck with me. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean you'll never feel hurt or angry again. It means making the conscious decision to let go of the need for revenge or retribution so you can start to heal. I want to believe that's possible, but I don't know if I'm there yet. Samantha has been doing everything she can to show me she's serious about making things right. She's continued therapy on her own, where she's been working on understanding why she made the choices she did and how to prevent them from happening again. She's also been more present at home, spending more time with the kids, initiating conversations with me, and being open about her schedule and whereabouts. Last week, she even wrote me another letter, unprompted. In it, she apologized again for her actions and acknowledged the pain she caused me. I know I can't undo what I did, she wrote, but I want you to know that I'm committed to being a better person for you, for our kids, and for myself. Her efforts mean something, but they don't erase the doubts that still linger in my mind. Every time she leaves the house or picks up her phone, I feel that familiar pang of paranoia. Trust isn't something you can rebuild overnight, and I'm not sure how long it'll take, or if it's even possible. If there's one thing keeping me from walking away, it's Ava and Ben. They're so young, so innocent, and they have no idea how close their family came to falling apart. Every time I see them laughing or playing, I feel a renewed sense of responsibility to try to make this work, for their sake, if nothing else. But at the same time, I know that staying together just for the kids isn't enough. If our marriage is going to survive, it has to be because I truly believe we can rebuild something real, not just because I'm afraid of what divorce might do to them. The other night, after putting the kids to bed, Samantha and I sat outside on the porch, talking. It was one of the first real, honest conversations we'd had in weeks. "Mark," she said, her voice trembling, "I know I've hurt you more than I can ever make up for. But I want you to know that I'll never stop fighting for us. Even if it takes years, even if it means dealing with your anger and mistrust every day, I'll keep showing you that I'm sorry." Her words caught me off guard. For the first time, it didn't feel like she was just saying what I wanted to hear. It felt real, raw, and sincere. I don't know if it's enough to fix everything, but it gave me a small glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could find a way through this. As I write this, I'm still not sure what the future holds for us. Some days, I feel like we're making progress. Other days, the weight of her betrayal feels insurmountable. But for now, I'm choosing to stay and see where this journey takes us. Maybe forgiveness is possible. Maybe it isn't. Only time will tell. Over the past few weeks, I've been focusing on what it means to rebuild a relationship that's been shattered. Therapy has helped Samantha and me communicate better, and there are moments when I feel like we're making progress. But rebuilding isn't a straight line. It's messy, it's painful, and it's forcing me to confront parts of myself I wasn't prepared to face. Even as we work toward a future together, the past looms over everything. No matter how much effort Samantha puts into repairing the damage, I can't shake the memories of what she did. Every time I walk into our bedroom, I see her betrayal replaying in my mind. It feels like a ghost I can't escape, and it's exhausting. During one therapy session, I finally brought this up. "It's like the affair is always there," I told Dr. Harper. "Even when things feel okay between us, it's sitting in the back of my mind, waiting to surface." Dr. Harper nodded thoughtfully. "That's a normal part of the healing process," she said. "You've been deeply hurt, and it's going to take time for those wounds to heal. The important thing is to acknowledge those feelings without letting them control you." Her words made sense, but putting them into practice is another story. How do you move forward when the past keeps dragging you back? To her credit, Samantha has been consistent in her efforts to show me that she's changed. She's continued attending individual therapy and has started opening up more about her feelings, not just about the affair, but about the struggles she was facing in our marriage leading up to it. I felt invisible, she admitted during one of our talks. I know it's not an excuse, but I started craving attention and validation from someone else because I didn't feel like I mattered anymore. Hearing her say that hurt, but it also gave me some clarity. I realized that while her actions were entirely her responsibility, our marriage wasn't as strong as I thought it was. We'd both let things slide: communication, intimacy, quality time, and it created a void that she filled in the worst possible way. Does that mean I'm to blame for what happened? No, but it does mean that if we're going to rebuild, we both have to take ownership of how we got here. In the midst of all the pain, there have been small moments that give me hope. Like the night we stayed up late talking about our dreams for the future, something we hadn't done in years. Or the time she surprised me by planning a family outing to the park, where we spent the day laughing and playing with the kids. But even in those moments, the doubts linger. Can I ever truly trust her again? Can I ever look at her without seeing the betrayal? And even if I can, will it be enough to sustain our marriage in the long run? These questions keep me up at night. Some days, I feel like I'm clinging to a sinking ship. Other days, I catch glimpses of what could be, and it makes me want to keep fighting. One night, after putting the kids to bed, Samantha and I sat on the porch together. The air was cool, and the sky was clear, a rare moment of peace in the chaos of our lives. "Mark," she said softly, breaking the silence, "do you think we'll ever be okay again?" I thought about her question for a long time before answering. "I don't know," I admitted, "but I think we're trying. And maybe that's enough for now." Her eyes filled with tears, and she reached for my hand. "Thank you," she said. "I know I don't deserve it, but thank you for giving us a chance." In that moment, I realized that rebuilding isn't about forgetting the past. It's about choosing to move forward despite it. It's about finding a way to coexist with the pain while creating something new. As I write this, I still don't have all the answers. Some days, I feel like we're on the right track. Other days, the weight of her betrayal feels like too much to bear. But for now, I'm choosing to stay. I'm choosing to see where this road takes us, even if it's messy and uncertain. This part of the story has been the hardest for me to write because it deals with something I've been struggling with since the beginning: forgiveness. After weeks of therapy and countless conversations with Samantha, I've realized that forgiveness isn't as straightforward as I thought. It's messy, complicated, and sometimes feels downright impossible. But it's also necessary, whether we stay together or not. During a recent therapy session, Dr. Harper asked me point blank, "Mark, what would it take for you to forgive Samantha?" Her question caught me off guard. I'd been so focused on the pain and betrayal that I hadn't stopped to think about what forgiveness would actually look like. "I don't know," I said finally. "I guess I'd need to feel like I can trust her again. Like I'm not constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop." "That's understandable," Dr. Harper said. "But forgiveness isn't just about trust. It's about choosing to let go of the anger and resentment so you can heal, regardless of what Samantha does or doesn't do. Forgiveness is more about you than it is about her." Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. I'd been holding on to my anger as a way to protect myself, but it was starting to feel like a cage I couldn't escape from. Letting go didn't mean excusing what Samantha did. It meant freeing myself from the constant pain of reliving it. Samantha has been doing everything in her power to make amends. She's continued with therapy, been completely transparent about her schedule, and even started journaling to work through her emotions. She's also been more proactive in showing me love and appreciation, small gestures like making my favorite dinner or leaving me handwritten notes around the house. One night, after the kids were asleep, she handed me a letter. "I wrote this for you," she said, her voice trembling. "It's not much, but I hope it helps you understand how sorry I am." The letter was heartfelt and raw. She apologized again for her betrayal, acknowledged the pain she caused, and wrote about how much she wanted to rebuild our marriage. "I know I can't erase what I did," she wrote, "but I want to spend the rest of my life proving to you that I'm worthy of your forgiveness." Reading her words made me emotional, but it also left me conflicted. I could see how much she was trying, but I still wasn't sure if it was enough. The hardest part of this journey has been learning how to let go of the anger and resentment. Some days, I feel like I'm making progress. I'll catch myself laughing with Samantha or enjoying a moment with the kids, and for a brief second, it feels like things might be okay. But then the memories come flooding back. The image of her with another man in our bedroom, the lies she told to cover it up, it's like a knife twisting in my chest all over again. Forgiveness feels so far out of reach in those moments, and I wonder if I'm just fooling myself by trying to stay. Dr. Harper has been helping me work through these feelings. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, she reminded me during one session. It means acknowledging the pain, processing it, and choosing to move forward. It's not something that happens overnight, it's a journey. A few nights ago, I had a moment of clarity that shifted my perspective. Samantha and I were sitting outside, watching the stars, when she turned to me and said, "Mark, I know you might never forgive me, and I'll have to live with that. But I want you to know that even if you decide to leave, I'll always be grateful for the time we had together." Her words broke something inside me. For the first time, I saw the depth of her regret, not just as an apology for what she'd done, but as a genuine acknowledgement of the damage she'd caused. In that moment, I realized that forgiveness wasn't just about her. It was about me letting go of the pain, whether we stayed together or not. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive Samantha, but I've decided to keep trying. Not just for her or the kids, but for myself. Carrying around this anger and resentment has been exhausting, and I don't want it to define me anymore. That doesn't mean everything is magically fixed. There are still days when the pain feels unbearable, and I question whether I made the right choice. But for now, I'm choosing to stay, to see if we can rebuild something worth holding on to. It's been a long, exhausting road, but I've finally reached a place where I feel like I can see the path forward. Forgiveness, healing, rebuilding, it's all a process, and while it's far from over, I've made a decision about what comes next. After weeks of therapy and soul-searching, I've come to understand that forgiveness isn't about pretending the betrayal didn't happen. It's about choosing not to let the pain control my life anymore. Forgiveness is a gift I'm giving myself, a way to move forward, whether that's with Samantha or without her. During one of our final therapy sessions, Dr. Harper asked me, "Mark, what do you want your life to look like a year from now?" Her question forced me to think beyond the pain and resentment. What kind of father did I want to be for Ava and Ben? What kind of life did I want to build, whether with Samantha or on my own? The answer wasn't as simple as I thought it would be, but it was clear. I wanted peace, stability, and a sense of purpose. And I realized that clinging to my anger wasn't going to get me there. Samantha has been consistent in her efforts to repair the damage. She's continued therapy, remained completely transparent about her life, and made a genuine effort to reconnect with me. "Mark," she said one night, "I know I can't erase the past, but I'm committed to building a future with you. I'll keep proving myself to you every single day, no matter how long it takes." Her words were raw and sincere, but they also came with the understanding that I wasn't obligated to stay. "If you decide you can't do this," she added, "I'll understand. But I want you to know that I'll never stop trying to be a better person for you, for the kids, and for myself." Hearing her say that gave me a sense of clarity I hadn't felt before. She wasn't just fighting for our marriage anymore. She was fighting to become someone she could be proud of. And that made me believe, for the first time, that change was truly possible. After a lot of reflection, I've decided to stay. It wasn't an easy choice, and it's not one I made lightly. But I see how hard Samantha is trying, and I believe in the possibility of rebuilding something new together. Our marriage will never be the same, but maybe that's okay. Maybe we can create something stronger, built on honesty, vulnerability, and a shared commitment to growth. That doesn't mean everything is magically fixed. There are still moments when the memories of her betrayal hit me like a wave, and I have to remind myself to focus on the present instead of the past. But those moments are becoming less frequent, and I'm learning to trust her again, slowly but surely. This year, Thanksgiving felt like a full-circle moment. Last year, everything fell apart. This year, we spent the holidays surrounded by family, laughing and sharing stories. Samantha and I worked together to prepare the meal, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of partnership between us. After dinner, as we sat on the couch watching the kids play, Samantha turned to me and said, "Thank you, Mark. Thank you for giving me another chance." I nodded, my chest tight with emotion. "Thank you for not giving up," I said quietly. "I won't pretend that our story has a perfect happy ending. There's still work to be done, trust to rebuild, and wounds to heal. But for the first time, I feel like we're on the right track. We're moving forward, one day at a time, and that's enough for now." To anyone reading this who's struggling with betrayal, heartbreak, or doubt, I want you to know that healing is possible. Whether you choose to stay or leave, the most important thing is to prioritize your own peace and well-being. Forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of the pain. Thanks for sticking with me through this journey, Reddit. Your support and advice have meant more to me than I can say. Take care of yourselves, and remember, no matter how broken things feel, there's always hope for something new.